Hello and welcome back. And today I've got something I know you guys enjoy. It's a review of an entire wave of a new toy line. And today we're looking at X-Men 97. The original X-Men animated series aired on Fox Kids for 5 seasons from 1992 to 1997. For almost 20 years, Fox Studios held the movie and television rights for the X-Men franchise. Even after Disney acquired Marvel, that contract with Fox regarding the X-Men was still in place, as long as Fox kept creating new movies and television featuring the characters. But that all changed when Disney bought Fox outright. When that happened, all rights to the X-Men characters reverted back to Marvel and Disney. One of the first projects they announced with the X-Men was an animated series called X-Men 97. This 10-episode animated series will air on Disney Plus in the fall of 2023, with a second season already in development. X-Men 97 will pick up right where the original animated series left off in 1997, with much of the original voice cast coming back to reprise their roles. As a tie-in to that, Hasbro has created this X-Men 97 toy line. So let's take a closer look at what's in this first wave. For several years prior to this, Hasbro had been creating the Marvel Legends Retro Collection, a series of 3 3/4 inch 5 POA retro figures, and the X-Men characters were part of that series. Early in 2023, Hasbro announced that that series had been effectively canceled, but it was being replaced with Marvel Epic Heroes. The Epic Heroes line is a series of 4-inch tall figures with multiple points of articulation, very similar in size and style to what Spin Masters has been doing with the Batman and DC properties. There are several different sub-brands under the Epic Heroes line, including Spider-Man, the MCU Guardians of the Galaxy, and Avengers Mech Strike. For the X-Men 97 line, we start with 3 individually boxed figures: Cyclops, Rogue, and Wolverine. On the back, we get a picture of each figure and the accessory they come with. And each of them comes with some sort of an energy effect, something that the Epic Hero series gets that the Marvel Legends retro figures did not: vehicles. So for the first wave of X-Men, we get the X-Men Team X-Jet, a miniature version of the X-Men's plane, the Blackbird. This toy is very similar to something that Toy Biz released for their original X-Men toy line in the 1990s. And the great thing about this vehicle is that it also comes with a figure. In this case, it is Storm, in her white costume and sporting her mohawk hairstyle, which will be new to the animated series. She also comes with a lightning effect. Now we come to the Titan Heroes. Titan Heroes has been a subline for Hasbro for many years now. They're the 12-inch tall, very simply articulated figures that you'd find in Walmart, Five Below, Family Dollar, and other discount stores. They've produced figures like this for almost all of their brands, including Marvel, Star Wars, and Power Rangers. The initial X-Men 97 wave features 2 Titan figures. On the right, of course, is Wolverine, standing at 12 inches tall. But on the left, we have the Sentinel, who stands at a whopping 14 inches tall. Now here I'll mention that these were all purchased from Amazon. And when Amazon first listed all the X-Men 97 toys, there was a mix-up in the Titan Hero listings. Initially, there was a Titan Hero listed for $11.96, which featured a photo of the Sentinel. But then folks started to notice that there was a second Titan Hero listing for $22, which featured a photo of Wolverine. After that, we compared the item numbers for each of the listings and discovered that Amazon had screwed up and swapped the photos. The 12-inch Wolverine was the $12 figure, while the larger Sentinel was supposed to be the $22 figure. Before the error was noticed, a lot of my friends ordered several of the incorrect Sentinel listings, thinking that they were buying $12 army builders. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and before the orders could be corrected or canceled, several people had boxes of multiple Wolverines shipped to them rather than Sentinels. Of course, it's easy to return things to Amazon, so in the end, no one's going to lose money over this, but it is quite aggravating, and the Sentinel did go out of stock before the error was corrected, so no one could go back and order multiples if they wanted. but at the time of this recording, the Sentinel has gone up on several other websites, including Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth. So in the end, there's going to be plenty of Sentinels to army build with. Of course, the great thing about this 14-inch tall Sentinel is, when you pair him with the regular size 4-inch figures, those are going to scale quite nicely. And you can see why collectors would want to army build that Sentinel. Let's start off with Cyclops, aka Scott Summers, longtime leader of the X-Men, both the original and new X-Men. Just don't ask him about his love life or his family tree. Scott's got a lot of issues to deal with. Each of the figures comes with one energy accessory, and in Cyclops' case, it is appropriately enough, his optic blast. Cyclops has the ability to shoot optic blasts, which he unfortunately cannot control without the help of special glasses with lenses made from ruby quartz crystal. The blast effect just slips over his head like so it looks like he's firing his eye beams, but of course you have that unsightly ring around the head to hold it on. One thing to note about Cyclops is that the hair is a separate piece from the head sculpt. It's not all one piece. So the second time I took this on and off, the shoddy glue that they used on the hair piece failed, and when I pulled this off, the hair came with it. So I had to use a little bit of Gorilla Glue to glue his hair back on. And no, he's not just bald underneath. There's a big cavity in there that the hair fits into. The paint on him is okay. The X symbols on his uniform and on his belt are actually better than I thought they would be. But overall, the paintwork is not great. It's sloppy in places, the yellow over the blue plastic. It's what you'd expect from a cheaper end kid's toy. Not perfect, but passable. Articulation on all the figures is going to be pretty much the same. So you have a 360 head, 360 shoulder that can go out, elbow bend, elbow swivel, nothing in the wrists, nothing in the waist, hips can go out, knee bend, and a knee swivel as well. So a good range of articulation for a figure this size. As I said, very similar to what Spin Masters has been doing with the Batman and DC figures, and certainly more articulation than the retro 3 3/4 inch line. Next we have Anna Marie, aka Rogue, with the mutant ability to absorb the powers and memories of anyone she touches. A power that manifested itself when she was a teenager. She was making out with a boy, and she inadvertently absorbed some of his energy and memories and put him into a coma. After that, she ran away from home, was adopted, if you want to call it that, by the mutant Mystique, who became sort of a foster mother to her. Mystique indoctrinated her into the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and as part of the Brotherhood, she attacked Carol Danvers, aka Ms. Marvel. Rogue, unable to control her abilities, absorbed too much of Ms. Marvel's powers and memories. Ms. Marvel's powers of flight, strength, and invulnerability became a permanent part of Rogue's physiology. When Ms. Marvel's memories threatened to overtake Rogue's mind, in desperation, she turned to the X-Men and Professor X for help. Under the X-Men, she was rehabilitated and has become one of the most popular X-Men characters. And I believe at some point she did have a reconciliation with Carol Danvers, who is now, of course, Captain Marvel. So the accessory Rogue comes with is sort of this energy punch that fits on her fist. And I guess you could say she's either punching someone or maybe absorbing their powers. Not sure what that's supposed to be, but when it's on her, it is quite unsightly. It's just a big, thick blob of green. Overall, the paint on Rogue is a little bit neater than the paint that was on Cyclops. The sloppiest part is the white parts on her hair. Those don't look very clean in places. Next up, arguably the most famous X-Man, Logan, aka Wolverine. His mutant ability gives him heightened animal senses, an accelerated healing factor, which helps him recover from just about any sort of grievous injury, and he has claws made of bone that protrude from and retract into his forearms. Logan was once taken prisoner by the Weapon X Project, who wiped his mind and bonded his skeleton to the indestructible alloy known as adamantium. So in addition to his accelerated healing factor, he's got an indestructible skeleton, and those bone claws, when coated with the adamantium, became razor-sharp knives. Weapon X wiped his memory in the hopes of turning him into a living weapon and controlling him, but they failed, and Wolverine broke free from the project and eventually wound up with the X-Men. Wolverine's accessory is this sort of energy gauntlet that fits over his forearm, and he sort of swipes his claws at someone and trails off that energy. I don't think that's something he used in the comics. I don't know if it's going to show up in the new X-Men 97 cartoon, but that's what he's got. Here we have Storm, Aurora Monroe, with the mutant ability to control the weather, usually in the form of rain, wind, and lightning. Storm was orphaned at a young age, and when Professor X recruited her for the new X-Men, she was living in Africa and providing rain to areas of drought. So the people in those areas were worshiping her as a living goddess. But she found a higher calling as a member of the X-Men, eventually becoming leader of the team when Cyclops took a leave of absence. So we have Storm in her classic animated white costume, but instead of her long hair, she now sports the mohawk that she wore in the comics in the 1980s. So perhaps that will be explained in the new episodes of the show why she cut her hair. She does have a cape that clips onto her wrists, but it is a rigid plastic cape. So in order to move her arms, you would have to unclip her wrists from the cape, and once her arms are up, the cape just kind of hangs down like that. Not the best solution. Obviously, some cloth goods would have been preferable so it would move with her arms, but again, we're talking a cheap kid's toy, so that's what we're working with. Her accessory is, of course, a lightning effect, which clips onto her wrist. And here is the X-Jet, and it is a nice, solid little vehicle. The plastic feels good. Not really any paint apps on it, except for this yellow tab right here, and I'll tell you why that is. We have the translucent red canopy, and you can fit a figure right in there. And there are two other places on this jet where you can put a figure. The first is in the back, where this handle can lift up. And there's a foot peg in this cavity back here. And once you peg in the figure, have them grab that handle, and they can ride the back of the jet like a jet ski. Not sure how safe that would be. OSHA might have something to say about this, but that is an option. Underneath the jet, we also have this solid trapeze piece. So we can pop this out, and this is on a ball joint, and you can have a figure hang on to this, like so. So you can either pretend they're lowering down or being rescued. The jet also features a single firing missile, which is launched by this tab here. It's got a pretty good spring on it. Now as to the other side, there is another missile in here, but this is only pushed in for storage. There is no spring in here, and the reason that this tab is painted is because it's not a launch mechanism. This is attached to this blue wing, they painted it yellow so it would be symmetrical with the actual trigger on this side. So a little bit of a cost-saving measure there. Just put the spring-loaded mechanism in one side of the jet. I'm not going to take this 12-inch Wolverine out of the package. There's really nothing to say about these type of figures. You've probably seen many like them before over the past several years. I will say that the cardboard on these boxes, including the Sentinel box we saw before, is very, very thin and flimsy. So if you're an in-box collector of any of these, you might have a hard time finding boxes in good condition. Now let's talk about the big boy, the 14-inch tall Titan Sentinel. And I think this is the one that a lot of my friends got excited about, because if these are made widely available, which they seem to be, these are going to make inexpensive army builders. So with this figure, we're going to have a little bit of side-to-side head movement. The arm can come up and go around. It does not go up further than that. No elbows, of course. Then you get hip movement out about that far. And he can also go out to the side that far. The coloration on him is really nice. And the paint applications on the face are much cleaner than on the smaller figures. As for scale, the Sentinel does tower above the 4-inch figures. And here's the Sentinel with some 6-inch scale Marvel Legends. Not as imposing, but it's still not bad. If I had one overall complaint about this line, they are difficult to keep upright, especially if you want to put them in different poses in your display. So I do find that I have to use figure stands when I'm displaying them on the shelf. After many of us had these figures in hand already, San Diego Comic-Con happened. And at SDCC, Hasbro revealed a new release for the X-Men 97 line. A 5-pack of figures to be sold exclusively at Target. The 5-pack included the 4 figures you see here, as well as new figure Gambit. Now the last thing any collector wants to hear is that the only way they can complete their series of figures is to A, find an exclusive, and B, purchase a multi-pack full of figures you already have to get the one you need. If indeed that's the only way you can get that Gambit, that is very poor form by Hasbro. I assume the 5-pack of figures would be at least $50, if not more, and I am certainly not willing to pay $50 just to get one figure. So I will be happy to go without Gambit for now. If that 5-pack becomes readily available, and if it goes on clearance, depending on the price, I may pick it up. But for now, I don't need it. Unfortunately, that was the only announcement that Hasbro had to make about this particular line. Will there be more figures in the future? More vehicles? Who knows? Only time will tell. We have a few months before the X-Men 97 animated series debuts on Disney+, and Hasbro is holding one of their online collector cons between now and then. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. If this is all we get, it'd be a little disappointing, but I'm fine with it. It's a nice little range of figures that puts me in mind of the original Toy Biz toys of the 90s. That's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.